Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. And today we are going to look at implementing charts inside our application. So, as I said, right, I am very close to deploying this application, and I felt a graph showing the recent response time is very important for a clear picture of how the URL is performing. Now, there are quite a few React.js chart libraries which you can find on the internet. And the one which I thought would be a good bet is this Recharts. It has around almost 20,000 odd GitHub stars, which is quite popular. And the NPM installs are quite high as well. And overall, the documentation seems quite elaborate and clear. So that's the reason I chose this one. So let's understand how things work quickly. This is an example of line chart. So as you can see, some basic information about the width, height is there. There is the x-axis, the name is defined over here, y-axis, Cartesian grid, the line type, monotone, stuff like that. And we have a data point over here. If we go inside the guide, no, not the guide, but rather the API, you'll see there are a lot more elaborate examples. And the one which I'm going to look at right now is line chart. So in line chart, I can see for this graph, I need obviously the line chart component. I'm passing the data over here. Some styling information is passed. Then we have our Cartesian grid, which is 3 by 3. Okay, that's fine. Then x-axis data key is name. If we click over here, show data format, I can see that this array has objects where we have name, UV, PV, and amount. So let's see how things are covered over here. X-axis data key is name, and that's why the page A, B, C is coming, because that key is being picked. Okay. Then Y-axis is fine. I think it will automatically pick itself based on the average values, right? Then we have tooltip. If we want to do something with it, I haven't explored them in great details. I have just created the graph so far. Then we have the legend, line type, monotone, data key is PV. Now here PV would basically mean that it is taking this value, and UV is this value. So if we see, there's one which is 2400 PV and UV is 4000. Okay, that's how things are going. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. Now, the only thing which I have done, let me show you what I have done so far. This is my line. I have one URL, so one set of data point, right, which is the response time. So there is a single line compared to this one where we have two. Okay, so this is what I have got in every URL that we get here. Okay, this is how things are coming up. So let's see how we have implemented this graph. So to get this information, the first thing that I had to do was obviously get the data. Let me show you how I have done that. I'll go to components, and in here I have this state, and you can see I have ID. This is just so that the ID of the URL success table, the response time, and the incident time. Incident time I haven't shown over here because this 11.2, 11.3 was becoming quite difficult to show in this entire thing, and the response time is what is being plotted. Okay, so this is the kind of data I have. I have around 20 odd items from 0 to 19. So let's see how we are getting that. Inside my Laravel application, I have this URL called URL/success response. Created a new controller called URL success controller, and the success method is being called. Returns a JSON response. Okay, we are doing the basic validation that I need the ID. Without this ID, there is no point because we don't know which URL success response we need to send. Okay, going forward, we have URL success query. I'm selecting only the ID, time, and the created at. I'm doing that so that I'm not basically calling for information which I really don't need. Okay, although this particular table has very minimum data. If you see, right, this is it. So I have shown you some of, I was looking at the query for some high bounces. If I just remove this, then this is the data, very, very small data, but still, good practice. So we have select ID time created at, with the condition that the URL ID should be whatever is coming from the post data. Okay, I'm sending it through the front end, because if I go over here, you can see I'm looking at URL 4, right? So I would ideally need all the data which is for URL ID 4. So that's how things are working. Okay, let's go ahead. Order by ID descending. I want the recent ones on top. Limit 20 get. Okay, and then this data is here. What I did, I wanted some different keys for the front end to capture. So I did a collection, and inside the collection, I did a for each of the data which we got from the database, and we are pushing ID, response time, and the incident time. And the incident time is basically in the format of minute and seconds, because the hour is quite understood when you are looking at the data, because we are loading only the last 20. So even if it is, let's say, how do you say, 9:59, so it will be okay. I think I don't need the minutes and seconds, it should be hours and minutes. Yeah, my bad. Okay, but yeah, I'll try to show that. So what will happen is 9:59, then 10:00, 10:01, 10:02, 10:03, things like that. Okay, so that's how things will work over here. Now this information is being pulled by this particular page, which is my URL/view ID. So let's see how things are. I'll close everything in here as well, and let's go to pages, URLs, view, id.tsx. So the first change that I have made is that I have a new state variable. The state variable is graph data, and I have the method called set graph data, which I'll use to set the data which is coming from the response. I see a small issue. Let me fix that. It should be capital G, right? Save it. Yeah, everything is fine. So I have this state variable. Okay, now based on our use effect, we call this function. We are already getting the failure information. We are getting the URL data. I think I should move it over here. Some refactorings. Not that it's very important, but what will happen is, even if the network request is slow, right, this component will render first, not the failure ones, because that's how I would like this thing to happen. And maybe I'll just put this on top of us as well, because they are on await, right? So this one will happen, and then the graph will happen, and then let's say this one will happen. If we put a sleep, right, you will understand it better. Okay, so this one was already happening. This one was already happening. The URL data, the failure data, but this one is new. We created this API just now, if you remember, right? This is our API URL success. It's a post URI. So HTTP service post URL/success-response. I'm sending the ID to this based on our the request object which is being expected, and whatever is the response, I am setting that out over here. Okay, so set data, graph data is being called. Now once that is done, let's see how we are rendering the component. This one is pretty straightforward. If graph data is not null, then I render a card, and then inside the card I have response graph. Let's see what the response graph looks like. So inside my components folder, I have graphs folder, and then inside the graphs folder, I have response graph. That's how I have done this, so that all the graphs are in one place if I want to play around with it. Yeah, interface. This data, I don't think it is required anymore. I was playing around with it. So let's quickly look at that. Yeah, nothing is breaking. So I have defined that I'm expecting props, graph data, which obviously is something which I'm sending from this place. I have a definition of the data I'm expecting. If you see, I created it. I have ID, response time, and incident time. This is going to exactly match with the response that I'm sending, these three keys. Okay. So I have created that interface. Now, response graph is the component where I'm expecting graph data. Then I have line chart. This component is coming from the recharts library, which I have installed. Width, height, data is the graph data which I got from the props. The styling information is here. Cartesian grid. I can do a 4 by 4 as well, just to make this a little more dense, but up to you. X-axis key is ideally going to be incident time, but you'll see even then I have a very problematic information, so I'm not keeping anything over here right now. Okay, but I'll try to get some meaningful information. But yeah, the response time is the most important thing, so I have kept it as is. Y-axis is already being plotted. I think I can empty this out. Tooltip, I haven't done anything, just that another tooltip should be there so that I get the values. Legend is there. Okay, and then I have defined the line type. I can put anything, any color over here just to get this thing, but this pastel color looks quite. And with that done, yeah, basically I'm able to render this. There are a lot of things which I want to look at. For example, if there are ways I can change things inside the legend. Let me see if I can play around with it and if I can show you something. So this is legend vertical align top. Okay, so this is one thing which I can change over here if needed. For example, vertical align top, right? And suddenly this goes up. That's basically you'll need to understand the API of each component and see how you can play around with it. So that's it, guys. If you have any questions around the graphs or this application itself, comment below. And yeah, thanks for watching. If you like this video, do click on the thumbs up icon and don't forget to subscribe to my channel.